Hey y'all, it's Diane with Shawcraft One in my old barn door, and I'm working on some custom ordered journals. And I thought I would just come on. I'm working on the cover of one of the journals, and so I thought I would just come on and show you guys how I put my journal covers together. I know that I've probably done a video like this before, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of this is going to be a fabric covered journal cover, and so it's a little bit different from what I did before. So this is going to be my spine. This journal is for someone who wanted, she said she wanted a big chunky journal with 3 or 4 signatures. So I thought I would do a little bit bigger of a spine so that even though it's going to be a chunky journal, it won't have alligator mouth. So usually I do 2-inch spines on my journals, but for this one, since she wanted it to be so big, I decided to do a 3-inch spine so that it'd give her a little more room to add her stuff to it. So I took an old hardcover book that I had pulled all the pages out of, and you can kind of tell what book it was. But I went ahead and painted gesso on it because I'm going to put some fabric on it, and I didn't want you to be able, because they were bright colors on the book, and so I didn't want you to be able to see through the fabric when I put it on. And so I think, if even though this is kind of a darker fabric, I just didn't want it to come through. So I just went ahead and gessoed the cover. So what I want to do first is let me just fold this back up real quick. I want to join the cover with the spine. And so in order to do that, I can go ahead and take these out because they're dry now. So I don't need those anymore. And then I am just going to, what I like to do is I like to line up my cover on my mat so that I kind of get an idea. This is actually from a game board. If you like, I buy a lot of games just for the cards that are in them, and like this one was Monopoly, so I got the cards, I got the money, I got the little the go to jail cards, and all the stuff that comes in it. So, but you're always like, what do I do with the board? But it's really good chipboard. And so I'm going to make my spine out of this chipboard. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of line everything up, make sure everything's good and straight and lined up together well. And then I'm going to make sure I have just a little bit of room in between the spine and the covers so that it will give a little for the movement. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a strip of fabric in the center before I cover it with my other fabric, just so that I have a good hold on the spine. I don't want just the cover fabric to be all that's holding that spine together. I want it to be a good solid spine. So I am just going to cut a piece of muslin. Well, I'm going to cut and rip a piece of muslin. Hang on a second. Okay. So I have this piece, and I just kind of cut, I just kind of eyeballed it so that I can make sure that I have enough. I'm going to pull these strings off. Because I don't want anything coming loose. So I'm just going to pull these off real quick. I didn't really measure this, I just kind of eyeballed it because I would normally measure it if it's going to show, but this is not going to show at all. This is just for quality purposes. So I'm good with however wide it may be. Okay, so I want this to come all the way up this way and wrap around and double over. So in order to do this, I'm just thinking of which glue I want to use. I'm trying to decide if I want to use Fabri-Tac or if I want to use my Aleene's. I think for this portion I'm going to use my Aleene's because it's really good and strong. So I'm just going to pull this down. Okay. Making sure that we stay lined up. And then I'm just going to open up my Aleene's here. It's been a minute since I've opened it, so it's kind of sticky. Get those out of the way. Now this was some glue that my friend Sarah sent me. I used all that was in here. So I just basically bought another bottle of Aleene's Tacky Glue and poured it in because I like the container. So I am going to just brush on some glue onto my spine. I'm going to start on the spine. And if you get it too thick, then it takes a long time for your glue to dry. So I try to get a fairly thin coat because it's good strong glue. It's going to stay. It's not going anywhere. And it'll give a good hold. So I'm just going to paint this on here. And take it all the way to the edge. Okay, and get it lined back up. And then I'm going to paint some on the edge of each of my covers. And again, I kind of want it fairly thin. So I'm just going to spread it out. And then I'm going to go to the other cover. Put some on the edge there. Okay. Now that I have it on there, I'm going to make sure everything's lined back up again with just a little bitty gap in between. And I like using my mat for this because I can make sure that it's straight, and then when you go to close the journal, you don't have, you know, a cattywampus book. Okay, and so I'm going to take my muslin and I'm just going to kind of lay it on here like this. And my muslin's kind of a little bit crooked, so I'm going to go down a little bit with it at the bottom so that I can make sure that I get a good straight hold. Okay, so I'm going to lay that right there like that, and then I'm going to take my little gift card and I am just going to smooth out all the wrinkles. And then I'm going to come back to, I just went through the center with that, and then I'm going to come back here, smooth that down, and then on this side, smooth it down. Okay, so once I have that sitting on there straight, I line it up again and make sure everything looks good, and then I'm going to flip it over. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect because it's not going to be seen. It's just for making sure that I have a good sturdy journal cover. Okay, so I'm gonna straighten this out. See, I don't like that that's showing through in the center, and I may or may not put something else over this. So I think what I may do is gesso this and then put the glue, and we'll go from there. But I want to go ahead and trim this down. I would rip this, but I've already got it attached to the other side, and I don't want to mess with the glue. Okay, so yep, let's grab the gesso real quick, and at the same time I want to keep pressing down, because as you can see it's pulling up a little, because this has a little bit of a bend, the spine does, but that's okay. All right, let me grab the gesso. And the gesso it'll make it a little sticky too, but I want to just kind of add gesso and glue, because basically the gesso, I'm just using it to kind of hide so much of that bright red. Just so it doesn't pop out so much. Just want to make sure I get a good cover. I'm going to put just a little bit more right here over this bright red here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. Put the lid back on my gesso real quick. And then I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to glue on the sides. And again, you don't want the glue to be super thick. You want to kind of thin it out as much as you can. Okay. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Fabri-Tac and just kind of go down the middle just to make sure, because I'm a freak about my spines. I don't want anything coming apart. I want everything to be good and sturdy and solid. So I'm not trying to put a whole bunch. But just enough to make sure I've got a good hold. Okay. And then I'm going to take my cover fabric, or my muslin fabric, and I'm going to kind of smooth it down. Like that. Now, as you can see, the gesso and the Fabri-Tac are showing through the center. So I wasn't sure if I was going to put something else on this or not, but now that makes the decision for me. And once this dries, I'll go ahead and put some other fabric down the center here just to, you know, cover up where the glue is showing through. So now I'm going to flip it back over, make sure I've still got a good hold on this side. And I do, and it's still good and smooth. And then I'm going to trim the edge off of this down here at the bottom. Y'all see how well I cut straight. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this dry. And as it's drying, I'm just going to kind of bend and smooth as I go. So if you take your little card, gift card, or whatever you have, you can actually smooth that down into there, and it'll keep it from wrinkling up so bad. So you just kind of smooth it down into your creases, just like that. Okay. And I'm going to go over here and do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry, and then we'll come back and we'll put the fabric on the cover. So bear with me, hang on. Okay, so it looks like we're dry for the most part. Might be a little damp in some areas, but for the most part, we're good and dry. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take the cover fabric, and I'm going to lay it out on my mat here. And then I want to take my cover, and I'm just going to lay it on top of my fabric. Okay, and I want to make sure that I have enough left at the top and the bottom and both sides to be able to fold my fabric over. Okay, so I'm going to cut, actually I'm just going to rip. Let's see. And I'd say there's about, you know, an inch or so left over. So I'm just going to, well, that was a little bit too much. Okay. So I'm going to rip that, pull my extra little strings off. Alright, so I'm going to kind of slide it into the middle there, so it's a good even balance on both sides. And then I'm going to, I got gesso on my scissors. Let me get that wiped off so we don't get gesso everywhere. I use baby wipes for everything in my studio. My scissors probably needed a good cleaning anyways. And then I've got gesso on my hand, so I'm just going to wipe it off on that baby wipe so I don't get it on the fabric. Okay. So now I'm just going to trim at the bottom. And then tear. I find that tearing works better for me because I do struggle so badly with cutting straight. And if you tear it, you can get a straighter edge. Okay. So I'm going to pull all these little extra strings off. Sorry guys. Just trying to get all the extra goodness off. Let me pull this up and make sure we're good, because over here we've got quite a few. And I like the way it looks when you rip it. I prefer that look over cutting it. So this one wasn't quite even, so it's going to be a little bit wonkier to pull the strings. And it doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be covered anyways. So I don't know why I'm sitting here wasting my time. Sorry. Or yours. Sorry for that. Okay, well, I hear a school bus. Has school started back already? Wow. It's not even August yet. Okay. So we have all of our strings. And then I'm just going to kind of smooth this out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I just want to lay this back on here one more time and make sure, you know, that I've got a good amount around the edges. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoop my fabric out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and put some glue, but I'm not going to put it all over the cover. And the reason I do that is because if you put glue all over it, by the time you get it all smoothed on there and everything, you're already going to have a chance of the glue on one side or the other, whatever side you start on, it'll start drying. And you don't want it to dry until you get your fabric on there. So, and it makes it a little more maneuverable. So it just makes it easier if you just do it a little bit of a section at a time. So now I'm going to sit that right there for a second, but I'm a little concerned about this because I don't want it to be bulky underneath my top fabric. So let me see if I can smooth this out just a hair. And that way it prevents the bulk. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get this on here. Try to get it as thin as we possibly can. It's kind of hard to see it up against the gesso. So I'm just going to do the one side to start with. And I'm trying to get everything smoothed out so that we don't have any clumps and we don't cause bulkiness underneath the top fabric. Alright, so now that I have that glued on, I'm going to bring my fabric back over here and I'm going to flip this over. Okay, so our glue's on this side over here, but I just want to kind of line everything up first before I lay it down onto the fabric and smooth it out. So I just wanted to make sure that I could see what I was doing. Okay, so I'm going to push this down a little bit, and then I'm going to take this and fold it and flip it. Now it doesn't have to stay folded, but that's just kind of an easy way for me to flip it and make sure, you know, my fabric don't come off. And then I'm going to take my card and I'm going to smooth that fabric down really well into that glue. And I'm going to get out any wrinkles that might be in there. Okay? So now that's smoothed down really well, and then we can pull this back and then start gluing in sections. And I'm going to turn it the other way because I'm left-handed, so I will go this way. You'll probably go the opposite direction. So I'm just going to grab some glue, and it's a little bit trickier when you're brushing this onto the fabric because it tends to be a little thicker. So you just kind of brush at the top, you know, try and keep it to the top as much as possible, and then you just kind of smooth it in. Try not to get too much glue because you don't want it to be, you know, super thick to where your glue doesn't dry good. Now you can use Fabri-Tac for this, but I have found that a lot of times the Fabri-Tac will show through the fabric, but when I do it like this, I don't have that problem, and I don't have to worry about, you know, putting something over it if the glue shows through, because this glue is good and smooth, and so you don't have the lines of glue showing through. Now different people do this different ways. This is just the way that I do it. It's the way that I have found, you know, over the years that works best for me. And so, you know, you find what way works best for you and go with it. But I'm just kind of showing you how I do it. Okay, I've got that on the fabric. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to pull our fabric back over again and start smoothing. Now I'll smooth with my hand first, just to kind of get it stuck down into the glue, and then I'm going to take my card and I'm going to start going over it with my card. I'm going to find my creases, push it down into the crease, and then find this crease, push it down into the crease, and we're good and smooth. Okay, so then I'm going to fold it back and we'll finish the rest of it with the glue and then get it all glued down. And it doesn't take a whole lot of glue when you do it with this way with the brush. It seems to kind of spread your glue out better, and you seem to use less glue. Or for me, anyway, that's how it works for me. Okay, so I just want to make sure I get all the way to the edge in the corners. And then we're just going to lay our fabric on. Smooth it out, trying to avoid wrinkles, and then take our card and smooth it on out. Okay, and then again, I'm going to come back over here and kind of go into my creases. And what that's going to do, it's going to help it bend a little easier once it starts drying. Okay, so now that I have my cover fabric on, I'm going to flip it over and we're going to miter the edges of our fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to take my scissors and I just eyeball it. Some people, you know, they measure or whatever, but I like to leave just a little bit of fabric, maybe like 1/8 of an inch. And I completely didn't do that the right way because I'm on camera. Y'all know how that goes. Okay, so we're going to do every corner that same way. Okay. And then we'll start folding in. our sides and gluing them down. So I'm just going to take my glue and I'm just going to take a really thin amount all the way down, and then I want to make sure that I have some here in the crease just to make sure it holds really well and doesn't come loose from the cover. So we'll put that there. And then I found the best way to make sure you get it right next to it is just to kind of fold it up like this, and then it sticks to that glue that you've got in there, and then you can just kind of rub it on just like that. And then we'll do this side that way. Where are we on our time? Ooh, I need to hurry. Almost there, guys. Okay, so we're just going to fold it up like this and let it stick to that, and then pull it on in and smooth towards the inside. Just like that. Then we're going to do the same thing on the bottom, and I want to trim this off just a little bit, because if I don't, we're going to have some bulk down here and it's not going to be beautiful and straight. So just need to get that excess off. Boy, I did that really bad, didn't I? Huh. Good thing it's not going to show. There we go. It's just basically to get some of that bulk off. Okay. And then we'll take our glue. I'm just going to kind of hit it like that just to make sure. And here on the corner, I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on top of the other fabric that's already laying down. And I'm going to do that on both sides. On the edges there, and then I'm going to take it and fold it like this, and then I'm going to take my bone folder, and on the corner here I am going to just kind of, hopefully you can see that okay, I'm just going to kind of fold this little corner in so that it's, you know, it's good and tight right there. And I'm going to do it on the same side over, or same way on this side over here, and just kind of push that down. And then we're going to go ahead and fold this over, and I'm going to push in towards the inside of the book. To make sure that it's good and tight, and that we get a good hold on our glue. And again, I'm going to come over here to this corner and make sure that it's matched up really well and that it looks good. And then we've got that all glued down. And then I'm going to come right here and just put a little extra glue right there because it was trying to stick up a little bit on me. And that way it makes sure that you make sure it lays down really well. Okay, and then we're going to come and do the bottom the same way. again, I'm going to try and pull out this where it curled up. Well, it doesn't want to, so that'll be okay. And a little bit more glue for this side over here. And again, it doesn't take a whole lot of glue. I mean, you want to be sure you've got enough that it's going to stay, but okay. And then we're going to take it and stand it up like that, and then just start pulling it in. And I'm going to start on this corner, making sure that I'm folded in good here. Push that up towards the inside of the book. And then again with this corner, pull it in to make sure that it stays good. And then I'm just going to go over the edge again to make sure it lays down good and flat, and that it's got a good hold. Okay, so now we just need to let this dry, and then you can decide if you want to put fabric on the inside, or if you want to put paper on the inside, or whatever it is that you want to put, you know, inside as your inside cover. So I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do on the inside of this one, but it'll be either paper or fabric. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to let this dry, and I would let it dry a little bit before I start trying to bend it. And then when it dries and you get ready to start bending it, I would take something like your bone folder or even your gift card and put it in the creases and do it this way, so that it prevents, you know, the wrinkling up there in the creases. So if you have any comments or questions, you can leave them in the comment box below. Don't forget to like the video for me if you will, and subscribe. And thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Big hugs.